When you are at war, this icon appears, and clicking on it will give you any information you need to know on how well the war is going. If you are engaged in multiple wars, you will see multiple war icons for each war you are in. If you're a machine intelligence determined on wiping all life from the galaxy, a hive mind which wants to eat everything, or fanatic purifiers, you can declare Total War, which is the simplest form of war in Stellaris. In Total War, any starbases you deplete the hull points of are immediately transferred to your control, unless there is a planet in the system, in which case you need to use armies to capture the planet before it and the planet are transferred to you. The only way Total Wars end are when one of the two warring empires hold no planets, or with the status quo, where the war ends, everyone keeping whatever they currently hold. When in a total war, if you capture an empire's last planet, the empire will immediately collapse and every starbase they own will be destroyed. I recommend, if you aren't otherwise desperate, to wait until you've taken all of their starbases before sending your armies to their last planet, as it can save a lot of influence on rebuilding those starbases. Otherwise, wars require a casus belli, a reason to go to war. The simplest way to get a casus belli is to claim an empire's systems using influence via the make claims interaction in the diplomacy screen. You can then declare war to take any systems you've claimed. Claims cost more influence for how valuable a system is. Systems with planets and starbases cost more. You can claim new systems while at war, but it will cost substantially more influence to do so as an aggressor. Also, you can claim a single system multiple times, pointless in a war just between two empires, but if you and your ally have a claim on the same system and win the war, whoever has more claims will get the system. In a tie, whoever had claims first gets it. You can see what claims other empires have on you with the diplomatic map mode. When the war ends, you will only get the systems you have claims on, not everything you occupy. Even if you don't declare a war specifically to capture claims, you will get everything you have claimed if you win. In non-total wars, when you deplete the hit points of a starbase, it will not be transferred to you, but instead occupied, which means it will turn into a friendly starbase where you can repair your ships, and it will shoot at your enemies, but you can't construct buildings and modules on the starbase or use its shipyards. When you land your armies and win the following planetary invasion, you occupy the planet, and while you don't get the resources from that planet, you prevent your enemy from getting resources from it and add to your war score. The more war score you have, the more likely your opponent will accept a peace deal. Apart from just occupation, another way of raising war score is by raising your opponent's war exhaustion. War exhaustion represents the deterioration of an empire's will to fight, and slowly grows over time passively from attrition, losing ships in space combat, losing armies, and from the destruction of planets. 2 years after 100% war exhaustion is reached, peace is automatically enforced. The militarist ethic and some technologies can reduce the rate of war exhaustion gain. There are 3 kinds of peace deals. Surrender, where your opponent achieves their war goals, achieve war goals where you achieve your war goals, and finally there is status quo. In a status quo, the war ends as is, so any fully occupied systems are taken, and in a subjugation or liberation war, whatever is fully occupied is released as a new nation. A fully occupied system is a system where the starbase and every planet in that system is occupied. It is easier to convince your opponent to accept a status quo than a victory, so if a war is dragging on too long, or a new crisis occurs that demands your attention immediately, it can be worthwhile to ask for a status quo. Only the primary war participants can negotiate peace, so the empire who declared war and the empire who the war was declared on. Anyone else dragged into the war via federation or defensive pacts can't. If you demand vassalization or tribute in the diplomacy screen and they refuse, then you get the subjugation casus belli, and if you win the war, they become your subject. Using the war philosophy policy, you can choose liberation wars, which gives you the liberation casus belli on any empire with different ethics than you. If you win the war, the empire will be forced to change to your ethics. Very useful if you want to force a friendship out of your enemies. It can be quite fun to liberate the entire galaxy into one super federation. Whenever a war ends, there is a forced period of 10 years truce that there is no way around. Also, during a truce, borders can't be closed. When at war, your military fleets will automatically engage any hostiles in range, or with your fleet selected, you can right-click on a hostile fleet or starbase to attack it. Once combat begins, your admirals take over and fight the battle. You can see how well it is going with the bar along the top. If you don't think you'll win, you can force your fleet to retreat after some time has passed. They will go missing in action for a few years, then return to friendly space. You can create armies using the recruit button in the armies tab. They will form into a fleet of armies, but do be careful as they have no weapons and have to be protected by your military fleets. You can right-click on a planet with any army to begin a planetary invasion. Your armies will land and begin combat. Combat width is how many armies can actively deal or take damage at a time, and depends on the planet size of the planet. You can retreat engaged armies like military fleets. If you can spare a military fleet, you have the option to orbitally bombard the planet, dealing damage to its armies. You still have to land an army to actually occupy the planet, even if no enemy armies exist on it. To orbitally bombard a planet, right-click the planet with your fleet selected. Orbital bombardment deals damage to the infrastructure too. How much can be changed with the orbital bombardment stance on your ships, and which stances you have available can be changed with the orbital bombardment policy. Orbital bombardment can kill pops on a planet and generates planetary devastation, which incurs a massive penalty to the economy depending on the percent of devastation. If you plan to take the planet, be careful of causing too much damage you'll have to fix later. Armies can't land on worlds still undergoing colonization, but orbital bombardment can end the colonization progress. As ship sensors can't see into a system within a nebula, if the enemy controls territory inside of a nebula, you'll have to send a science ship to scout the system before you can send your military fleets in. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more Stellaris guides like this, the link to the playlist is in the description.